You can talk for hours about meaningful things but put you in small talk and suddenly your mind goes blank. If how's the weather feels exhausting instead of easy, you're not broken or socially awkward. Your brain just craves connection with substance. And there's a deeper reason why shallow conversations feel so uncomfortable for you. Let's talk about that. Because if you've ever stood in line at a coffee shop silently praying nobody turns around to ask, "So, busy day?" This video is basically about you. Small talk feels simple on the surface. It's supposed to be light, easy, harmless. But for some people, it feels like chewing cardboard. You smile, nod, respond politely, and inside you're thinking, why are we doing this? Why are we talking about traffic when we both clearly have inner worlds, memories, struggles, dreams, and opinions about life? And here's the thing. People who feel uncomfortable with small talk aren't antisocial. They're not rude. They're not cold. In fact, they're often some of the deepest, most emotionally intelligent, and thoughtful people you'll ever meet. They just operate on a different conversational frequency. One of the biggest reasons small talk feels uncomfortable is because your brain is wired for depth. You don't enjoy talking just to fill silence. You like conversations that go somewhere. You want meaning, insight, stories, emotions, ideas. When someone asks, "How's work?" and clearly doesn't actually want to hear about your burnout, your creative struggles, or your career dreams, your brain gets confused. It's like being handed a beautifully wrapped gift box that turns out to be empty. You were ready to connect, and instead, you got a script. So you answer with something safe like, "Yeah, it's fine," and they say, "Nice," and both of you walk away feeling nothing. For your brain, that feels pointless. You're not trying to be dramatic. You just don't see the value in exchanging words that don't lead anywhere. Another reason is emotional sensitivity. Many people who dislike small talk are highly sensitive to energy, tone, and authenticity. They can feel when a conversation is real and when it's just social noise. Small talk often feels fake to them, not because the other person is fake, but because the interaction itself lacks emotional presence. It's like background music in an elevator. It exists, but nobody is really listening. If you're someone who naturally tunes into emotions and meaning, that kind of interaction feels empty. You'd rather have 5 minutes of honest conversation than 30 minutes of polite chatter. There's also something called cognitive depth. And yes, it sounds fancy, but it's actually very simple. Some people naturally think in layers. When they hear a question, their mind doesn't stop at the surface. If someone asks, "How are you?" your brain might immediately go, "Well, do you mean physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually? Do you want the honest answer or the socially acceptable one?" Should I mention that I've been questioning my life choices lately? Or just say good? That mental processing happens in seconds, but it's tiring. Small talk requires you to constantly simplify your thoughts, and that feels unnatural when your mind wants to explore complexity. People who struggle with small talk also tend to be more introspective. They spend a lot of time in their inner world. They think about life, relationships, purpose, mistakes, growth. They replay conversations in their head. They analyze their own emotions. So when they're suddenly expected to talk about weekend plans with someone they barely know, it feels like switching from a deep documentary to a random commercial. The transition is jarring. Their brain needs a moment to adjust, and by then, the conversation has already moved on to someone's new gym routine. Let's also talk about authenticity. If small talk makes you uncomfortable, there's a good chance you value being real. You don't like pretending. You don't like putting on a social mask just to fit in. You don't enjoy saying things you don't mean. Small talk often requires a bit of performance. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You act interested in topics you don't care about. You nod along even when your mind is somewhere else. For someone who values authenticity, that feels draining. It feels like emotional acting, and you didn't sign up for that. Another big factor is energy management. Deep thinkers usually have limited social energy. They don't hate people, they just get tired faster in surface-level interactions. Small talk takes effort because it doesn't recharge them. Meaningful conversations give energy. Small talk takes it away. It's like the difference between eating real food and snacking on empty calories. One nourishes you, the other just fills space. So after a few rounds of, "What do you do?" and, "Yeah, weather's crazy lately," you're already mentally planning your escape route. There's also a strong connection between discomfort with small talk and emotional boundaries. Many people who avoid shallow conversations are very selective about who they open up to. They don't share personal things easily. They don't like forced intimacy, but they also don't like fake distance. Small talk sits awkwardly in the middle. It's personal enough to require engagement, but not deep enough to feel meaningful. So it feels like standing in a doorway, neither inside nor outside. Uncomfortable. Let's be honest for a moment. Small talk also comes with invisible rules. You're supposed to ask certain questions. You're supposed to respond in certain ways. You're supposed to keep things light. You're not supposed to get too deep too fast. For people who think independently and don't love social scripts, this feels confusing and restrictive. You're constantly wondering, am I talking too much? Am I being too quiet? Was that weird? Should I ask something back? Meanwhile, someone else is happily chatting about their favorite TV show without overthinking any of it. Different brains, different styles. Now here's something interesting. Many people who hate small talk are actually great conversationalists once the conversation becomes real. Give them a topic they care about or ask them a thoughtful question, and suddenly they come alive. They tell stories. They share insights. They listen deeply. They ask meaningful follow-up questions. They're not bad at talking. They just don't like talking for no reason. Put them in a room discussing life lessons, personal growth, creativity, relationships, or big ideas, and they'll talk for hours. Put them in a room discussing office gossip, and they'll mentally disappear. This also connects to introversion, but not in the way most people think. You don't have to be shy to dislike small talk. You can be confident, expressive, and outgoing, and still hate surface-level conversations. Introversion is about where you get your energy, not how social you are. Many deep thinkers are ambiverts or even extroverts who simply prefer meaningful interaction. They don't want to collect acquaintances. They want real connections. There's often a strong link between discomfort with small talk and past experiences too. Some people learned early in life that deep conversations mattered more than polite ones. Maybe you grew up in a household where feelings were discussed openly. Maybe you went through something that made you mature faster than your peers. Maybe you spent a lot of time alone, learning to enjoy your own thoughts. All of that shapes how you communicate as an adult. When you've had real conversations about pain, growth, or survival, chatting about parking problems feels small. And then there's empathy. People who avoid small talk are often highly empathetic. They sense when someone is struggling, even if that person is smiling. They notice emotional shifts. They pick up on subtle cues. So when a conversation stays on the surface, it feels like ignoring the elephant in the room. You're sitting across from a human being with a whole life story, and we're talking about lunch plans. Your empathy is quietly screaming, "There's more here. Let's add a little humor." Because if you're one of these people, you've probably mastered the art of pretending to care about things you absolutely do not care about. You've nodded seriously while someone explained their fantasy football strategy. You've said, "Wow," at least 12 times during a story that could have ended 3 minutes earlier. You've laughed politely at jokes that made no sense, and afterward, you went home and needed a full hour of silence to recover. That's not weakness. That's emotional exhaustion from shallow interaction. But here's the beautiful part. People who struggle with small talk usually form incredibly deep relationships. When they care deeply. They remember details. They show up. They listen. They give thoughtful advice. They don't spread themselves thin across dozens of connections. They invest in a few. Their friendships are intentional. Their love is real. They don't say, "I'm here for you," casually. They mean it. They also tend to be self-aware. They know what drains them and what energizes them. They know they don't need constant social stimulation to feel alive. They're comfortable with silence. They enjoy solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. There's a difference. Silence doesn't scare them. In fact, they often prefer it to empty conversation. While others feel awkward in quiet moments, they find peace there. Another thing you might notice about people who avoid small talk is that they value quality over quantity in almost everything. Fewer friends, deeper bonds, fewer words, more meaning. Fewer activities, more presence. They're not chasing constant excitement, they're chasing alignment. They want their outer life to match their inner world. Now, does this mean small talk is bad? Not at all. For many people, it's a bridge. It's how they warm up. It's how they test safety. It's how they ease into deeper topics. It serves a purpose. But if you're someone who feels uncomfortable with it, it simply means your bridge looks different. You'd rather skip straight to the meaningful part. You don't need 10 minutes of weather updates to feel comfortable talking about ideas, emotions, or experiences. So what do you do if you're this kind of person living in a world that runs on small talk? First, stop labeling yourself as awkward. You're not broken. You're just wired for depth. Second, give yourself permission to redirect conversations gently. Instead of, "Yeah, weather's crazy," you can say, "Yeah, it's been wild. By the way, What's something you've been really into lately? You'd be surprised how many people are secretly waiting for someone to take the conversation somewhere real. Third, find your people. The ones who light up when you ask deeper questions. The ones who don't rush silence. The ones who enjoy long conversations about life. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need a few who do. And finally, honor your energy. It's okay to step away from draining interactions. It's okay to choose quiet over noise. It's okay to protect your emotional space. At the end of the day, feeling uncomfortable with small talk isn't a flaw. It's a sign of depth. It means you see more, feel more, and think more. It means you're not satisfied with surface-level living. You want connection that matters, conversation that feels alive, relationships that have substance. So the next time someone says, "You're so quiet," or "You don't talk much," remember this: you don't talk for the sake of talking. You talk when there's something real to say. And in a world full of noise, that's actually pretty powerful. Because while others are busy filling silence, you're listening. While others are trading empty words, you're waiting for meaning. And when the right conversation finally comes along, you don't waste it. You show up fully. And that says everything.